Hey guys, Andrew McInnis here, WagerTalk.com, here with my co-host Carmine Bianco, breaking down the Eastern Conference Finals. We now have the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3-2 lead in the series as we finally saw a home team lose in this series here, Carm. We are recording this on a Friday. Looking forward to getting some picks out, some props, some sides, some totals for this game coming up on Saturday. Carm, I'll bring you in for your thoughts on Game 5. And hey, looking forward to breaking down Game 6.
Yeah, no Friday show today, so we wanted to make sure for our Puck Time community, and we love you guys who always come in and chat. Not so much that spam bot, but other than that, we love you guys always tuning in. So we wanted to make sure you guys knew our thoughts on Game 6, which could be the final game of this series, unless the Rangers can send it back to Madison Square Gardens for a Monday tilt. But looking forward to Andrew. That game last night, man, that was a pretty intense game, but it just seems like the Lightning, they're just holding over this Rangers team. It's the first loss since the opening game against the Pittsburgh Penguins for the Rangers, and that one was tight right till the end. But the final score, with an empty net, doesn't reflect how that game went.
And full transparency, Carm, I'm disappointed in myself for kind of going against the grain. Sometimes you want to do it. You want to have that hot take. Unfortunately, my hot take yesterday was the over, and that was about as cold of a take as you could get, as both goaltenders play very well. It's a really great defensive game between both clubs, and we see the New York Rangers at home get held to just one goal, 3-1 final for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The shots, something I want to talk about there. We talked about goalie save props with Brian Leonard. We saw it 27-25. If you had the over for either of the goalie save props, both of those go under. Face-off dot, close to even, but we saw, the edge go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Power plays. I talked about how important special teams is. Brian talked about teams staying out of the box, and you've talked about players taking advantage of it, like Stamkos, Kucherov, Kreider, and those guys. We saw Tampa Bay go 0 for 2. The Rangers go 0 for 1. So not too much of an advantage there at all as far as the special teams go. 5-on-5, the Tampa Bay Lightning get it done. And it just seems to me, Carm, that Tampa Bay have gotten better as the series has progressed. The matchups for them have gotten better as the series has progressed. And really, we saw the Rangers in games 1 and 2 dominate the style of play. The fact that it was so rough, they're playing in the corners, getting those matchups that they wanted to get, getting production, like I mentioned, from guys that you might not see on the stat sheet, but getting the job done. And right now, all I have to say is that I really think for the New York Rangers, they're just relying too heavily on a couple name players. You and I were talking about that before we recorded here, and I know you kind of feel the same way as I do about this Rangers team. Has their depth dried up to you, Carm? Because I feel like it's either the Kreider or Zibanejad show or nothing at this point.
Yeah, well, that's just it. You pointed to game 1 of the series. We talked about it. There was a Tampa team coming in off a long period of rest. The Rangers just coming off a big Game 7 win in Carolina, and they rode that momentum into Game 1 and beat up on Tampa 6-2, and then this series reverted back to what we thought it would likely be, which was going to be a close, tight checking one, and the Rangers won that second game 3-2. And it looked like Andrew. It looked like they were on their way to winning Game 3, albeit it was only after about 30 minutes or so. But they were up. They were up on Tampa in that Game 3, and if they put them away in that game, we're looking at a completely different series, and it could be over by this point. But Stamkos has picked up that team, put them on his shoulders, and really carried them. And they're doing things that they need to do to win. Number one is, you talked about that top line for the Rangers. You saw it yesterday in Game 5. Zibanejad and Kreider, they looked invisible on the ice. It's just they've completely taken that line out. And if nobody else is scoring, and we've talked all season long and in the playoffs, if you don't get that secondary scoring and you shut down that number one line, your team is in trouble. And they're getting guys in front of the net. Look at the goals that Tampa Bay scored as well, too. You've got Corey Perry screening in front of Shesterkin, making life uncomfortable for him. Things I thought other teams should have done to Shesterkin, Pittsburgh did it, and it worked. And maybe they're taking a page out of Pittsburgh's book. Tampa is taking a page out of Pittsburgh's book, getting guys in front of that, making life uncomfortable for him, because he's going to stop everything from the exterior. But if you can get inside in front of him, make life difficult for him, it takes him out of his comfort zone, and they've clearly done that. So with that said, would you look at player props for that top line going into Game 6? I'm talking about for the Rangers, because it's do or die for them. So that top line's got to show up. Doesn't mean they will, but would you look at player props?
That's the only way I'd look. I think that if I was looking to bet on the New York Rangers for Game 6, that's what I would do, is take Kreider to score a goal or Zibanejad to score a goal or over 1.5 points for those guys. The thing is, when I look at this game for, a game plan strategy, a game script, I should say, I've been saying this for a lot of these elimination games, Carm. I think we're going to continue to see low scoring. I took my shot, and I got proven to be wrong with the over in the last game. But I think we could see a really slow and tight start, and then see the goals, pick up a little bit. As desperation picks up, there'll be people being, open. There'll be assignments being missed, and we're going to see some plays that we might not have seen yet in this series. So I think that the best way to go about this, if you like the Rangers, is to take a look at those player props for the top line guys. But you've done a great job of talking about Palat. You hit a goal scoring prop on him. He scored another goal in the third period for this team, his 8th of the playoffs. He's a 200-foot player. He does it all for his team. But I wanted to talk about defensemen, because we talked about Adam Fox on this show during this series, and a couple guys, McDonough, really both these teams have defensemen that can jump into the rush. And if you look at it, really, the successor has always been the team that had the better defenseman that game. And which team had the better defenseman in Game 5? It was the Mikhail Sergachev game, jumping into the rush. And I feel like that was a little bit too much to handle for the Rangers. The point I'm getting at here is that we saw a relatively dominant victory from the Rangers, and Stamkos wasn't on the score sheet there. Kucherov wasn't on that score sheet there. And I feel like that makes the biggest difference. And it goes to show that the Lightning didn't need a power play. They didn't need their top line guys to score. And they still get it done. So, especially because that Sergachev goal was a shorthanded goal, which made a huge difference. But Carm, when I look at this one, I think that the Lightning finish it off and get the job done after it was a great first 2 games at home for the New York Rangers. And if they don't get the job done, like I mentioned, you're going to cash a plus player prop with those guys to score a goal there for the Rangers. I also like the third period over in this game. I think that a lot of bets now, a lot of opportunities, a lot of books will give you this wager prior to the game starting. And talking about that Colorado series against Edmonton, how about Colorado or Edmonton and Calgary? You're getting like 2.5 on those plus money. In this series, it'll be a nice, smooth 1.5, which I really like for this series.
Yeah, Andrew, we both, I disagreed with you on the Game 5 when you thought there might be some goals. And while it stayed under, we talk about, and I'm not saying it would have changed, we talk about sometimes if that first goal goes in and if it goes in early. And we saw Kucherov beat Shesterkin, but he hit the iron and it comes right back out, right through I think it was through his arm, and hits the back iron of the far post. If that goes in that early in the game, I think it changes the game flow. I think it changes the game pace. They finished 8-3 shots on goal in that first period, 11 shots. It's not what you want to see when you've got an over, but but there was 2 goalposts in that game, or I think a goalpost and a crossbar, whatever, in that first period. And you're thinking, if any of these ones go in, it just changes the pace of the game. A team is kind of playing catch up at that point. We might have seen more goals in that one. And it's kind of why I'm on the opposite of you here. I think we're going to see some goals on Saturday. and the plus money on the over in this one. I think the Rangers have to show up. I'm not saying that they are going to show up, but they're going to have to score to win this game. They are not going to go into Tampa Bay, as I see it, and beat them 2-1 or 3-1. Tampa's going to get their goals in this game. They're going to continue to make life uncomfortable for them. And let's face it, that arena is going to be 50-50 split between fans. We saw it in games 3 and 4. There's a ton of blue shirts in there, Rangers fans in there. We're living in Florida, so it's not as if the atmosphere will be all Tampa Bay-based fans there. I think it'll be a great one, and I think we're going to see some goals. I'm going to be looking at scorer props, and I'm going to be looking at some power play props because I think we'll see more power plays in this game than we did in Game 5. And to your point of Palat, his most impressive most impressive play last night was dodging the elbow of Trouba, who it's great watching that video. You'll see it on Twitter. He just leads forward with his elbows, trying to lay an elbow into Palat and completely flies by him and misses him. So that was pretty impressive.
And Carm, as a fan of Sidney Crosby and a guy that had money on the Pittsburgh Penguins, I believe Trouba does stuff like that. So I'm not surprised to see him do something like that last game. But real quick, shots on goal for Tampa Bay. You talked about these props, goal scorer props. I think goal scorers and that type of stuff and power play points are the way to go. The shots on goal, I would cool it for people as far as these over with all these guys for shots on goal, because we're seeing things really get calmed down. Like I said, 27 shots on goal for Tampa, 25 for the New York Rangers. We're not seeing these big numbers like we were before. Both teams are being more picky, more selective with their shot selections, and it's bringing these shot numbers down big time here. Again, Carm, hey, I like the over, just not right away. Third period, in-game over. So hopefully we can both hit. We saw what happened in the in that game, elimination game with Colorado, man. It picked up at the end in the third period, and there you go. So I feel like we can see it happen. And same thing with happened in the last game between Calgary and Edmonton. So I feel like it can happen for sure. We want to wrap this up, but any closing thoughts from you and a best bet for you for the show?
Yeah, if you look at and quickly to your, it's something that I don't normally play those save props. But if you look at the two games that were played in Tampa Bay, and there were 3-2 and 4-1 wins for Tampa Bay, there were still quite a few shots on goal in those games. In Game 3, 51-30 for Tampa Bay, and then 35-31 for the Rangers in Game 4. So if they come out with lower numbers based on what we saw in Game 5, then you might want to jump on it. But if they're in the mid 30s, I would probably stay off of them as far as that goes. You want to get into? I'm sorry, man. I just went on a tangent there, Andrew. Do you want to get into giving out a best bet each on the show?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's give a best bet here. Obviously, we're recording this show on a Friday, but we're giving a best bet out for Saturday's game. Let's hear it from you.
All right. First of all, I'm going to throw out a promo code for you guys. If you want to get a 7-day all access for only $69, use code NL30. Code NL30 will get you $30 off at checkout, off the normal $99 price. I've got a 5% play up for Saturday as well too, so you can get that along with all my other plays for 7 days for only $69. It's a great deal. I'm going to go to a power play prop. One of our producers, Joe Ranieri, and I, we cashed in a lot on Tampa Bay last year during the playoffs on player props. Power play props. I'm going to go with Stamkos to register 1 point on the power play, and you can get that at plus 120. Why the power play? Because his regular points for the game is at minus 205 for over half. So he's going to get on the power play. We're going to see some power play goals. Stamkos plus 120 to record a point on the power play. Over to you, Andrew.
Love that power play prop, and you're right. The odds changed drastically from regular point to a power play point. Stamkos will get it done for you, Carm. Best of luck this weekend. Happy we were able to do this show together. And a great idea by you, honestly. I got to give Carm credit for the idea to record this offline and get it out for you guys for Saturday's game. For me, I talked about it already during the show, the third period over. If I was coming on a show talking about this 5 or 10 years ago, people would call me nuts for giving out a third period over before a game even starts. But now we have more books offering this. I always say the first period is the lowest scoring period in these elimination games. Both teams come out very conservative, very careful, but then the game opens up late in the game. And there's always that factor of the empty net goal as well. So going with New York and Tampa Bay, third period over 1.5. I'm expecting somewhere around 140, 145, somewhere around that number, but we'll see. I mean, these teams haven't been scoring much. The under has been huge, so we could get a very generous number on this as well. Guys, for me this weekend, we got a UFC 5% play. We got CFL week 1 best bets going. Use that promo code week69. 7 days all access for $69. That's the same price of 2 5% plays. Get a week of all my plays, $69. All right, great stuff there, Carm. Happy to come on here real quick and talk about game 6. And we'll find out if we'll have a game 7 to talk about next week. On behalf of Carmine, I'm Andrew. We'll see you guys next week.